I was sitting here admiring this beautiful silver dollar from the United States Mint. It's pure silver and it's actually a very beautiful coin. And as I was sitting here, I thought, wouldn't it be fun if we could do some money problems in math? And so what we're going to do is take a few minutes today to look at how we can solve money problems. Now when we solve these, they can be pretty complicated and pretty hard. But if you set it up in the beginning, if you set it up using a table and organize your information, then life becomes much easier and you can be successful at these. So let's just begin by taking a look at what this table looks like that we're going to organize our information in. In the table I have 4 columns. The first column is simply the name of the coin that I'm going to put there. So in my example here, I have quarter. The second column is simply how much the coin is worth. A quarter is worth 25 cents. The third column we'll use is how many. What's the number of coins we have? Well, I don't know, so I'm just going to say X. And then, finally, the last column is the amount. Well, I have X coins, 25 cents each. So 25 times X. And that's the idea I'll use to set up the table. Now, let's take a look at our first example, and let's just start at the beginning and go through it step by step. In example 1, we have $3.20. We have nickels, dimes, and quarters. And then they give me some cryptic stuff here. It says 3 times as many quarters as nickels, 5 more dimes than nickels. And they want to know how many of each do we have. Alright, well let's begin setting up our table. So what I did is I made my table, the coin, the value, how many I have, and the total. And everything so far is blank. I know that I have nickels, dimes, and quarters. And I know that a nickel is worth 5 cents, a dime worth 10 cents, and a quarter worth 25 cents. And so right now I have a table and it has these 3 pieces of information in it right here. Now the question is, how do I fill in the rest of the table? Well, here's what I'll do. Let's see what I have here. 3 times as many quarters as nickels. I know something about my quarters. 5 more dimes than nickels. I know something about my dimes. But you know what I know nothing about? I know nothing about the nickels. And so what I'll do is I'll let X be the number of nickels. I know nothing about them. So I'll fill in my table right here. X is the number of nickels. Now, let's see what else we have here. We have dimes. 5 more dimes than nickels. Well, 5 more is plus 5. So if I have X nickels, I have X plus 5 dimes. The next piece of information is here in red. 3 times as many quarters as nickels. Well, 3 times means 3 times the number, multiplication. I had X nickels, I have 3 times as many quarters, so I have 3X. So now I have the number, and the number involves variables. Now let's just get the total value. 5 times X, 5X. 10 times X plus 5, I've got that right there. 25 times 3X, I've got that right there. And now, once I have that information, I can write my equation. I have this much money in nickels, this much money in dimes, this much money in quarters, and I add those together. 5X plus 10 times X plus 5 plus 25 times 3X. And what does that add up to? I have a total of $3.20. So what I do is this. Notice when I did my nickels, dimes, and quarters, I said 5, 10, 25 cents with no decimals. I'm also not going to use a decimal here. $3.20 is the same as 320 cents. So instead of writing 3.20, I'm simply going to write 320. Now I can solve the equation. Multiply through, combine like terms, get x alone. I get that x equals 3. So now I have, let's see, x is 3, so I have 3 nickels. X is 3, so I have 3 plus 5, I have 8 dimes. And 3 times 3 is 9, I have 9 quarters. So 3 nickels, 8 dimes, 9 quarters. And that's how much I have. Now we should always ask ourselves, does the answer make sense? Well, let's see, that's 15 cents, 80 cents, $2.25. Yes, does it add up to $3.20? It certainly should. So when you go through these problems, the first thing to do is set up your table. All right, keep your information organized, and once you do that, it's not so bad. It's a lot of steps, you just need to slow down. Let's take a look at the next example. On example 2, there's something a little different here. They have $1.35 with dimes and nickels, but they don't tell you anything about the coins. They simply say you have a total of 15 coins. In other words, however many nickels I have plus however many dimes I have equals 15. I have a total of 15 coins in my hand. Well, when you have this, I recommend writing this little piece out. The number of nickels plus the number of dimes equals 15. And when you have this, it doesn't matter which one you call x. You'll get the same answer in the end. So I decided that x would be the number of nickels. So x plus the number of dimes equals 15. And when I subtract x, the number of dimes is 15 minus x. Now that actually makes a lot of sense. If I have 15 coins, well, if I have 0 nickels, I have 15 dimes. If I have 1 nickel, then I have 14 dimes. If I have 2 nickels, I have 13 dimes because I have a total of 15 coins. So when I set up my table, I have nickels and dimes, and I have x nickels, 15 minus x dimes. And I'm just filling in my table. Nickels are 5 cents, dimes are 10 cents, and then I multiply like I did before. 5 times x, 10 times 15 minus x. Once I've done that and filled out the table, then I simply go through and write the equation. This amount here plus this amount here equals $1.35. But once again, instead of writing 1.35, because I wrote 5 cents as 5 and 10 cents as 10, I'm going to write this without a decimal point also, 135. 5x plus 10 times 15 minus x equals 135. Solve the equation and you get x equals 3. That means we have 3 nickels and 12 dimes. And so that solves the mystery of how many nickels and how many dimes we have. We simply set up our table, organize the information, and then solve the resulting equation. Let's look at one more, and then I'll have you try an example. Example 3, it says we have 3 times as many dimes as nickels. So we know something about the dimes. Twice as many quarters as dimes. We know something about the quarters. Total of $5.55. Well, you know what we know nothing about? The nickels. We know nothing about that. So x will be my nickels. Now I'll fill out my table. I have nickels for 5 cents, dimes for 10 cents, and quarters for 25 cents. I have x nickels because I know nothing about the nickels. So I'm going to call that x. Now let's take the information up here. 3 times as many dimes as nickels. So 3 times the number of nickels. If I have x nickels, I have 3 times x dimes. Now quarters. Twice as many quarters as dimes. Well, if I had 3x dimes, then I have 3x times 2, or 6x quarters, because I have twice as many quarters as I did dimes. So twice this amount is 6x. Final thing I'm going to do, fill in the table, multiply 5 times x, I get 5x, 10 times 3x, and 25 times 6x. Now that I've done that, I can write my equation. 5x plus 10 times 3x plus 25 times 6x equals 555. And again, I didn't write the decimal point because I didn't use decimal points in anything. Solve the equation and I get x equals 3. That means we have 3 nickels, 9 dimes, and 18 quarters. And that's how you solve word problems involving money. Again, the table is key. Now I'd like for you to try one on your own. See if you can set up the table, and let's see how you do. Please pause here. Okay, let's see how you did. We have $170. We have $1 bills, $5 bills, and $10 bills. And it says we have 3 times the number of $10 bills for our 5s, and with the 1s it says we have 30 more than the number of 5s. But you know what they didn't tell me anything about? They didn't tell me anything about the number of $10 bills. And so I guess I'm going to let X represent the number of $10 bills. Now in my table I have $1 bills worth $1 each. I have $5 bills worth $5 each. $10 bills worth $10 each. And X is the number of $10 bills. I know nothing about that. For the 5s, I have 3 times the number of 10s. So I have 3 times X. For the 1s, I have 30 more than the number of 5s. So I have 3x plus 30. Now let's write our equation. We have 3x plus 30, 5 times 3x, and 10 times x equals 170. I solve the equation and I get x equals 5. That means I have 5 10s, 15 $5 bills, and how many 1s? I have 45 $1 bills. And so this is how you work through word problems that involve money.